Welcome, Reanimated fans, to this week's episode of Reanimated. I'm H.A. Conrad, coming to you from Brooklyn, and joining me is my intrepid co-host, Stuart Tiffin. Hey, Stuart.
G'day. How's it going?
It's going all right. I definitely need more coffee, so you'll hear me doing that. Maybe I should just mainlight it into my system today. But today, we're going to talk about a couple little tidbits of news items, and then we're going to recap, summarize, review Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which is, essentially a reboot of the first two, or a combo of the first two Resident Evil games. So this is basically like a complete clean slate of the Resident Evil franchise. And we will get to that pretty quickly, I would say, because there isn't that much to talk about in terms of news.
Yeah.
Couple little things, but anyway, do you want to kick it off, Stuart?
Well, with great delight. Although the story is nothing delightful to it. This is a headline that people might have seen this week floating around, that Bobby Kirkman and a few others are trying to sue AMC yet again for the timing of when their deals were made based on the alleged popularity of the Walking Dead TV show.
This strikes me as more of a lawyer's tactic, basically, and they obviously had come to some kind of an agreement and settlement, and so this seems more of a continuation, or to try to and so who knows what happens behind the scenes, but my guess is that AMC is trying to hold on to as much as they can, and that's normal. This is like a lawyer's game at this point, in my opinion, just how it's going. I think this is just them sort of exhausting every effort, though they must feel like there is some merit to it,
especially since anytime one of these articles appears, everybody kind of looks dirtier.
Yeah, it doesn't look good for anybody. So
anybody getting named here, I mean, AMC, they don't care. They're a nameless corporation, right? They can get away with it. But then all the plaintiffs, is it plaintiffs or appellants, or I don't know what they are, but it's not just Robert Kirkman. It's also Gail Ann Hurd and Glenn Mazzara, as well as two other guys, David Alpert and Charles Egley. Those two were big time producers on the show and showrunner. Glenn Mazzara was the showrunner before what's his name came along, our story overlord, Gimple.
Yeah, so they're basically looking for amended claims for breach of the the breach of the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing and tortious interference. And this is basically basically saying that AMC was waiting to see how popular the show would be, and then they would define the limit of the payouts for the people who were profit participants. And then there is another claim. So this is really an amended claim on the other thing. And it feels like, I agree with you, it doesn't feel good. And this just happened in 2020, and I thought it was pretty definitive in terms of what had been ruled. But I mean, I don't know how you then ask them to basically reinterpret everything that happened again. But this is we'll have to see what happens. I mean, it's and I will say that Gibson Dunn, who is the firm representing MAGR of essentially AMC, is basically, that's not gonna fly. And I don't know. I think it's interesting to see what will happen, but I would be very surprised if anything happened in favor of Kirkman and these other people.
Mm-hmm.
So it just seems really strange, because there was it just feels weird. I don't know. What's your take on it?
Yeah, I think I've said everything I want to say about it, which is that it's just at this point doesn't make anybody look better. And I guess the people going out for the extra payout feel that it's really important. And I feel like Robert Kirkman's probably okay at this point. I don't know about the other people on that list. And maybe his name is just like an anchor. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the only thing I could see is that they are looking for this to maybe have some precedent for other types of things that might come down the line. But I don't know. This seems kind of weird, but whatever. We'll see what happens with it. Next up is
Actually, HA on the Walking Dead front, I just remembered that I'd seen something. I just put it in our show notes.
oh, okay.
Look at this, the headline.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Tyrese may be the Walking Dead, the Tales of the Walking Dead debut
Oh,
as
that's cool.
reprising his role Chad Coleman would be reprising his role as Tyrese. I don't know how solid this is yet. I think maybe they saw his name on a in the production side.
Well, maybe if they're going to do a backstory or, that kind of flashback to set the table for something, I could see that happening. But it would be nice to see him back again. I loved him. So that would be a cool thing.
Chad Coleman's gone on to do one really good role in The Expanse, at least, which I'm still getting over that show having ended a couple weeks ago. Um, and yeah, he's awesome. I'd love to see
Yeah.
him do a little more
Yeah.
Tyrese.
I would like to see more Tyrese. But,
It's
I'm
also
all
been
about,
how many years since
yeah,
his character
I
died?
know. So that's going to be interesting. But, and then we can, the trailer for the final season of part 2 of 3 of The Walking Dead has finally that it's out there. So did you get to watch it, Stuart?
Yeah, I've watched it, and there's a lot to like try to figure out the chronology and how they're if they're doing special editing. But some things are very clear, which is that Daryl, at least, and Maggie are in the Commonwealth during
Yep.
scenes of this show, and I think that was my main takeaway, and that the Commonwealth was at Alexandria, but
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if they went inside or not. But yeah, it looks like there's definitely some big moving parts.
Yep. And so I'm psyched for that to start up again. And definitely well worth watching if you're a Walking Dead fan, just to get excited about the next round. And
And
then
there was a one shot of Daryl trying to talk sense into the Reapers again, and I'm just like, good luck.
I know it's like, oh, Daryl, this is just not gonna work. But and then lastly is actually just a small little item. I'd actually not heard of this show. This is the first I've heard of it, but there is a show on Netflix called Raising Dion, and it seems almost a little. It's like a little YA. It feels a little Heroes to me, but apparently the season 2 of Raising Dion is going to have zombies in it. So I might check it out. It doesn't necessarily completely speak to me, but I'm always willing to give something a chance. I like superheroes. I like zombies. It's all good.
Yep, these are zombies raised by some sort of kid warlock, though, so
Mhm.
you might not love that element of it. But
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
little.
I've never watched this show either, which I've always been a little bit ashamed that this is probably prestige TV that I haven't found time in my calendar to watch, but I do watch a lot of stuff. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think I'm this makes me perk my ears up a little bit too.
Yeah. So maybe we'll check it out. See what's what. And then that's kind of it for the news for today. But we are going to jump right into our review of Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. Um, I will say at the outset, it's got a pretty decent cast. There's some really great people in this that I like. It's interesting, but I didn't actually completely recognize the main the star who plays Claire Redfield.
Scodelario.
But then I read, doing when we were doing research for the show, I realized that I did recognize her, but it's just been a long time. But she was in that show Skins, which is like a UK teen show, and she was like one of the original characters. And I said, oh, okay, I'm like really happy to see her out there. But
I'd never seen that show, and I know that's the role that got her this part, I guess, according to
yeah,
the X-ray. But
she
then
did
she was
great.
in every Maze Runner movie, which I've seen them all, I think, but I don't remember. I mean, that was a movie that I definitely watched like in a second screen environment. I was not that invested in it.
Yeah, I didn't see any of those. I read the book. I just never watched it. But I was psyched to see her in this. She was really great in that show, and so that's kind of that was exciting to realize that I did actually know her. Then we have Hannah John Kamen as Jill Valentine.
I have a major crush on this woman. She is so beautiful. And like so she first came onto my radar in Killjoys, which was like a sci-fi channel show, question mark, which was about like space bounty hunters. and she did a lot. There was a lot of stunts around her character. Her character was like the badass of the cast. And another person on that cast was Johnny Ice from X-Men. I forget that guy's name, but he's been,
Huh.
anytime I see him, I only think of X-Men, and he was the ice guy who tried to get with Rogue.
Oh, okay. Um, and she was also in Game of Thrones, Ready Player One, Ant-Man and the Wasp is what I feel like more she's gotten more and more acclaim.
That was her mainstream sort of launch, I think. And
Yeah,
then she
that
did,
makes
I
sense.
think in the UK, she's more famous too. She's British, right? And
Yeah,
she was in The Stranger, which is like a book adaptation that was a prestige miniseries on, I think it was on Netflix last year.
hmm.
And she was one of the leads in that too. And she's actually just really good. She's a great actor, and she's also quite physical. So yeah, I was really happy to see her. And she's Jill
Yeah,
Valentine. No
yeah. And Jill
small role.
Valentine is pretty awesome. So, so we have her like so all over. I mean, this is a pretty great cast. And then there is the sort of Robbie Amell is Chris Redfield. We've also got
But I just want to run down like where I know this dude from too, and where people might have seen, or if they haven't, they should. Canadian actor Robbie Amell was in a film called Arc, which is like a time loop movie, which is like, as you know, its own subgenre of science fiction, like Groundhog Day. But it's a really good one. And I suggest people see it. It's Arc with a Q. And then he was in a film called Code 8, which is about people with superpowers. It's also like a sci-fi with superpower film. And there's another one of those coming out soon. And that movie also was really good. And I think there isn't a huge amount of range expected from his role, but he does have some really, really cool scenes in this film. So Robbie Amell as Chris Redfield was good.
yeah, and I should also note that he is the cousin of Stephen Amell,
Who is
who's Arrow. So that's
who?
you don't know the show Arrow, Green Arrow.
Oh, Green Arrow. Oh
He's
yeah,
Green
yeah.
Arrow's Arrow.
There's a family resemblance there.
Yep. So there's that. Then there's just like a lot of great. They did, and I feel like they did the casting pretty well overall.
Yeah,
They
Tom Hopper is one of my all-time favorite younger or actors who people will see him if they've seen Black Sails, they recognize Billy Bones right away. He's just this massive dude who also has like a very kind face. So even though he's playing Albert Wesker, and we know from watching the other movies that Wesker, you hear that name, and this is the thing with an IP like this, you hear the name of some of these characters, you're like, oh, bad guy. But
Yep.
he actually plays it, I think, really interestingly.
He
And
does.
yeah, so Tom Hopper is also the giant like gorilla dude from Umbrella Academy.
Yep.
So you might
Uh,
know him from there too. And
yeah.
then Donald Logue and Neil McDonough, who have just done a million things. And Neil McDonough also seems to be getting typecast in this stage of his career as an evil bad guy. Like
Yeah.
I think I'm trying to remember. I don't know his entire catalog, but like Band of Brothers might be the only role he ever did that wasn't evil in a way.
Yeah.
Poor guy. And Donald
Uh,
Logue has been in a million things, but I first remember him from Tao of Steve and then
yes. Me
Blade.
too. Yep. Yep. And I don't know, he just is fun, and he definitely had fun with this role. So I really enjoyed that.
People who really lean into the angry police lieutenant role is always just a good time. It's like an inside joke.
And then there's also Avan Jogia. I don't know if I'm saying the last name correctly. Apologies. But I remember him from Caprica. I don't know if you ever watched that, but he was really awesome in that. And he's been in a bunch of like, he's a Canadian actor, so he's been in a lot of like those kinds of shows. He was also in Zombieland, Double Tap, and a few other things. But this is definitely, I thought he was a lot like really great in this too. He was,
His character has a weird, it's not even an arc really, is it? It's like a jagged sort of spiky graph.
yeah, and he definitely was present during a couple of my favorite scenes. One specific favorite scene.
Yeah.
Um, I
He might have the honor of being the only laugh out loud joke deliverer in this movie.
Yeah. So I really liked him, and I'd like to see him in even more. So like he was a lot of fun. And then we've got a couple of other people. One who I want to call out because it freaked me the heck out, which I'm sure you already probably were aware of, but and the character itself freaks me out in the games, freaks me out everywhere. The character of Lisa Trevor is played by Marina Mazepa, and she is a contortionist who is, just I feel like contortionists have a creepy level to them anyway, but in this particular role, it was really, really messed up. So she did an incredible job in that particular role. Um,
Yeah.
that role freaked me out beyond belief. Let's talk about that when we get into our review. Is there anybody else you wanted to talk about
Just
specifically?
in terms of behind the camera, this ended up being all written and directed by one person, Johannes Roberts. But originally there was going to be who was it? James Wan and Greg Russo. They both left to go do Mortal Kombat, which came out last year. And then so Johannes Roberts just took over and wrote and directed it. And like, I don't know, that to me that is like a warning sign. When you see that kind of those sorts of shifts happening in a project. But I'm not gonna dance around this anymore. I thought this was a really effective movie, and I think it's way better than the. I'm gonna say something that might make you angry, not UHA, but other people. Way better than the Mia Jovovich version of this
Oh,
film.
I think they did an amazing job with this. I think from a like the goal here, the director had talked a lot about how they wanted to return to the roots of the game, the show, like to make it more fun and a call out to those things. And I do think they did that and did it in a way that made sense. And I was definitely impressed with the camera work, the special effects. I thought that they did a pretty good job on this. And there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about as it relates to that as we kind of go down our rabbit hole of reviewing. I would do want to mention one more person that's in this because I love her in The Expanse, but Lily Gao is in this for a brief after credit scene or post
Mm-hmm.
credit scene, and she plays Ada Wong, but I was actually I had seen that she was going to be in this, and I was like, and then I kept waiting for her to appear, and
Yeah.
she didn't until the very end. So I'm assuming that if there is a sequel, she will be in it. Um, but anyway, just I hope so because I think she's awesome. But yeah.
Oh, I
Um,
guess it probably does bear. I'm not a huge Letterkenny fan, but there is Nathan Dales who plays one of those two kind of doofuses on Letterkenny is their helicopter pilot Brad Vickers
oh,
in
okay.
this
Yep.
movie too. So he probably does bear mentioning down there. But like, come on, we don't often talk about casts in this great amount of detail. This is a really stellar cast, and
Yep.
yeah, it's all swinging for the fences from that perspective. Like and I hadn't read much about this movie before we sat down to watch it. And because I'm like, I've seen it, like I've seen it a bunch of times. But then you go into that diner scene fairly early in the film, and I'm like,
Oh
wait,
yeah.
oh, he's it. Oh, wait, she's here. Wait, what? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that was definitely like a pretty exciting moment for me to realize who I was going to be watching for the next couple hours. So that was great.
Yep.
So I think one of my biggest takeaways from the beginning of this film, not even the beginning, like the first, I don't know, 60% of it, is
Mhm.
how unsettling and intense and terrifying it was for me.
Oh, yeah. I will say that I started watching this, like I was like, oh, I'm gonna get a jump on this. And I started watching this a couple of evenings ago and had to actually stop because I was like, I can't, I need to watch this in the morning because it's freaking me out a little too much and I'm probably gonna have really bad dreams. So I in fact waited to the next day to watch it. I will say there, the buttons that I have that get pushed are, freaky little children
Uh-huh.
that
Check.
are like, either demonic or something's happened to them, zombie little children. And this, um, not, this is definitely the Lisa, the Lisa Trevor thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just, and even honestly, even the setting where they're in the orphanage, like really just started to you know to get me really
Oh
wound
yeah.
up and freaked out. And so I put a pause and then I watched the rest of the next day. But there is a lot of like, they do a great job at this film at tension building, and then you get to like have a moment to breathe, and then tension building, and then you get like, they do a great job with the timing of this.
Well, okay, yeah, I agree with you. Like after the halfway point of the film, when the shooting kind of starts, then you do get those moments to breathe, because while there's shooting going on, you're not
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
as nervous as when you're
I
waiting for the
feel
jump
like they
scares.
lose a little bit of this rhythm, this patter, when they hit that point.
Yeah, but
But
that's kind of this game was I
yeah,
mean, yeah, okay. So, but the first 20 something minutes of this movie, it's just all that crawling dread, and it's
yeah,
just
totally.
nonstop.
Um,
It's really, it's kind of like, how did they even manage to keep up that level? It was so much, and 20 minutes is a long time to be like going, is that a woman standing in that
yep.
forest?
And
What
they
the?
just keep hitting you with it. It's
Yeah.
like, so they have the my favorite weird orphanage scene, and they really set the table for this extraordinarily well. It's already creepy even from like the opener.
Oh
It's
yeah.
creepy. The lighting is like super, like you can't see in all the corners there. It's like this sort of dormitory of kids. um you know you've got a little freaky mutant like thing, touchy
Don't you?
like
Not to be confused with itchy tasty.
no, but that also, but
That too, yeah. But
yeah.
yeah, Lisa Trevor is a really interesting treatment, because yes, objectively terrifying looking character, but also a good guy. Like later, I mean, we
Well,
don't
at
really
least
know
to
that.
Claire, she's a good guy. So,
Yeah, exactly. She's
I think
Claire's.
if she ran into the good doctor, less of a good guy for him,
Probably.
obviously.
I mean, in her file, there's a nice stamp that says dangerous that we
Right.
get to see later on. But yeah, what an
Well,
amazing character design too. Like what great
right. So
costuming.
so just for those who don't know anything about her, at least in like her backstory with the game, is that she and her parents, her dad is the one who actually designs all the sort of tunnels and crazy like secret rooms and all the stuff with Umbrella Corporation. And then they get invited to the mansion and are experimented upon. And her parents both die, I think. I know at least her mom dies, but they experiment on her with the virus. And her goal in the game, like she's always looking for her mom, and they'll send people looking like her mom to kind of placate her. And so she kills those people and puts their faces on her. And she's like, because of the mutation of the virus, she's basically indestructible. So as far as the game goes, you can kind of like pause her, like you can put her down for a minute or two, but I don't think you can actually kill her. And so that's sort of like, it's one of the few characters I know a lot about, maybe because it was so freaky. And full disclosure, I have not played this game that much, and I am not a gamer. But I did. This is like the character that kind of stopped me wanting to play the game. So so like that's when she made the appearance. I'm like, not Lisa Trevor.
Such a
um,
benign name too. Oh, your name is Lisa Trevor. Okay, cool.
yeah, but
Uh,
the makeup on her and the way that this actor um plays her in terms of movement, it is incredibly unsettling.
yeah.
And really, I thought, so this is like the beginning scene pretty much of the movie. And you have this other kid who's young Claire Redfield seeing this thing, and nobody else sees Lisa Trevor, and it's like completely disturbing. I don't know, were you as disturbed as I was by this?
This is
Probably I was more so than you.
incredibly disturbing. It's incredibly disturbing when Lisa Trevor's in her bed.
Yep.
And then it's incredibly disturbing when she goes upstairs and finds her in that weird little tent. It
Also,
doesn't
Lisa
stop.
Trevor has some really disturbing toys. I mean,
That
those are
little
not normal toys for
no.
kids to have. And I mean, I know she's special, but those toys are disturbing. I don't, who's buying those toys? Um,
Yeah,
just
that's yeah. Everything about the orphanage is creepy, and they come back to that location later, which I think was is a good thing. And I might be saying stuff that people who are really familiar with the story of the game will be like, yeah, duh, that was in the game.
yeah,
I actually I don't think I've ever played the entire game from start to finish. I remember dying a lot in the mansion because in the
yeah.
game,
I always
famously, you go in there and you have like 6 bullets too, and you're just like, I can't do anything wrong.
yep.
They had more than 6 bullets in this film, but it was still the mansion scenes were really good in this film too.
They set it up like as this ominous thing really right from the beginning. And we're teasing, but Neil McDonough has really like I saw him and I'm like, I can't imagine who he might be playing. Like it was pretty um I don't know. I like him a lot, but he's definitely making this reputation as a baddie, right?
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like he hasn't done a good guy turn in a minute.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure he's fine inside. Everybody, we need villains. So I mean, Donald Logue isn't exactly playing a good guy either, and he hasn't in a while because his last turn that I saw on Sons of Anarchy, I feel like he was like a coke sniffing
Yeah.
U.S. Marshal or something. Um, but yeah, so they've set the tone and then some because, like I said, 20 minutes in, you're still like going into Chris Redfield's house and seeing those weird neighbors through the window. Oh my
Yep.
gosh. Yeah. And then like I think things only start to chill out in like interstitial scenes where you've got like the Stars team are having a lighthearted conversation at the police
Yep.
station. And yet I think Claire is already fighting zombie people out in the streets or in Chris's house, if not right before this, right after it.
Yeah, but even before it, like Claire making her re-entrance into Raccoon City
Oh yeah, in the
with
truck and
the
everything.
with the trucker, I mean, that whole scene was fantastic. Where they, basically you get to see already like that probably Raccoon City isn't a place anybody should be going. And he's kind of telling her that while he's trying to feel her up in the car. And then they do the great, the Doberman, which I think, we all and
Yeah.
the trucker is a part of the game too, I think. So that's I feel like they really did a great job at doing like lots of Easter eggs and call outs to this stuff from the get-go and just getting it's just all starts ramping up really quickly. uh
Also, in that trucker scene, get to see some zombie behavior that is kind of interesting because the woman who they hit gets up, clearly reanimates as a zombie, but then just walks away, but
right.
also stops and then is staring at them from the trees because that's horrifying.
Yep.
And then Dooley kind of does a little something similar later in the mansion. So there is a bit of a like tactical sense to some of these zombies anyway. They're a little different because some of them actually speak too.
Yep.
But yeah, very creepy. Everything about this, it's like designed to be as creepy as possible. We go into Emma's diner and meet some of the cops, I guess. There was also like an introductory crawl that said like everybody, Umbrella's leaving town. There's only a skeleton crew of staff and people too poor to leave. And then we start to meet the Stars team
Mm-hmm.
as well as a couple of Raccoon City PD, and we meet Leon, and Leon is a sad sack and is kind of useless for the first, I don't know, half of the film.
Well, I kind of like how they intro him. He's all like half asleep in his bed. He goes to the diner and they're like, "Hey, did you get in trouble for being like a loser?" And he's like, "No, not really. Well, maybe a little." And he's basically this um like punching bag for a lot of the other people, but specifically for Donald Logue's character.
Yeah,
Um and he's kind of being punished for whatever thing he had done. So
we
he's on
shot
death.
his partner in the back is what they all think he
That's what
seems.
they're implying. He's saying that that's not what happened, but I think we can agree probably that did happen. Um,
There's a strong thread of, oh, I guess you're wondering what I'm doing as a cop sort of stuff, like, oh, I'm really fish out of water, I shouldn't be here, I'm not, this isn't the job for me, and I'm really sleepy. And then suddenly it like turns on a dime later on in the movie, and I did feel like his character maybe could have used a little more work than
It
more
could
than because it wasn't just his fellow employees or fellow cops who thought he was a loser by the midpoint when he like is sleeping through the truck crash
which
thing.
was the funniest thing ever.
I don't care. I didn't think of that as a funny moment so much as well, Leon deserves to die. But I know that Leon's also one of these characters who is a major character in the franchise. So I was like, well, he's probably not. So it was a little bit
Well,
like
it was interesting. Like I thought they were gonna go there, do a little bit more with him when Donald Logue is interacting with him, and that is a great scene. And it's after the tanker basically explodes while he's sleeping, and he wakes up to see um the zombie driver aflame and into the station. Donald Logue's reactions are amazing because he's just like, all right, so I'm gonna get out of here now and you're in charge. And he really he's an incredible actor. And I just think he's really he's really like plays the corrupt kind of police chief really well here. And he gives a little bit of background here about Leon, which is that um, he's a screw up, and basically they kind of had to take him because his dad wanted him to do this. And so, it gives you a little bit of that. But I agree with you. I think they could have done a lot more to develop that and to give him maybe more of a redemptive story arc somehow.
yeah, because he
Um,
suddenly just starts redeeming himself
right.
really fast at like later on when him and Claire are down in the basement. But there's nothing to show that he has any of those skills early on, I guess.
Right. But I did like him. I thought he was the one of my favorite scenes is the one between him and Donal Logue, where Donal Logue is basically abandoning the station and just saving his own butt, which at that point, like, is there anything really in that box that you need? I don't know.
What is in his box?
What's
Yeah.
in that box?
Yeah. Well, I
But
mean, I think in the game, Chief Irons is supposed to be like hiding evidence, or he is
yeah,
working
yeah, so
like
maybe
it's in the second game. And that's what's interesting here is they have blended the first two. Like the first game, I think almost entirely takes place at Spencer Mansion, I believe. And the second game is more out in Raccoon City. And so by combining those two storylines, you get your police station siege and you get your Spencer Mansion stuff. And so I think that was actually pretty effective for the film too. And like that also introduces Irons, Leon, and Claire, who were not in the first game, I believe.
right. Um, so yeah, so like, and I do like how they have the two different teams. So they have the two sort of groups of people, groups of survivors, and then they eventually bring them together. And I thought that they did a good job at juggling between the two. They do a good job when like Chief Irons is trying to get out of the city, and then it makes sense when he comes back. I thought that again, I think that their sort of horror film tactics worked really well. The scene in the garage when he's getting like I will say that they get an A+ for weird and creepy sounds, like
Oh God,
overall,
yeah.
like building that tension, like both the sounds of the zombies, the liquor, the dog, all incredibly creepy. So like I thought that the tension that they built here and all of the things that you can't see, they do the really good job of having whatever it is that's a threat in the shadows, and that is incredibly effective, or at least it was for me. I was like, oh, this is, I know it's probably the dog, but it's freaking me out anyway.
I
you
did
know
not know it was the dog until the dog was there. I guess, yeah, because the noises it was making were so slurpy.
yeah.
It was something else. And Claire saves the day in that scene, and I thought that was a little cheap because it's one of those things like we complained about this in the last part of The Walking Dead where Negan saves Maggie in that mall. He's there all of a sudden, right? He's there. Claire just suddenly is there and killing the dog with a fire extinguisher. And that's another scene where Leon does not like serve up anything worthwhile. He comes out after she's saved Chief Irons with the fire
Right.
extinguisher, is like, stop where you are, drop your weapon or drop your gun. And she's like, moron. I don't have a gun.
Yeah, and I actually thought that they were going to have him do that given his last scene with the chief, and that would
Mm-hmm.
have been kind of funny. But I guess they have to establish something between her and
He
why.
has to have a reason to let her in, right? Because he's
Right.
pretty, he doesn't trust people.
Right. But
And that
the
was
other,
funny when Leon's like, "Oh, does this mean you're in charge again, sir?"
yep,
that was
um,
that was a good one.
it's pretty good. And I also, the effects um of the, when you're seeing the residents of the town and Claire's sticking at her brother's house. I will say, like, when you have like creepy little kids crawling under the table and you have people, outside your window saying, putting weird creepy things on like in blood on the glass. The fact that she's like just kind of hanging out in the house is weird to me. Like, I'd be like, I think I'm gonna get out of here as quickly as I can.
I think I don't know that she was had a good reason to leave until the itchy tasty lady broke through the window, honestly, and the boy broke through the front door. Like, honestly, Chris Redfield's house, total security nightmare, like she said.
Yep.
The boy could just walk through the front door, insane.
Yep.
But yeah, like, until that happened, she had no reason to leave that house right away, like,
I don't know. Itchy tasty woman freaked me out.
those
Uh,
two, like the fact that the little boy's just under the table, not looking at her and saying, and she's like, "Do you need help?" And he goes, "You need help."
yeah, I
And
know.
then,
It's like, huh, okay,
oh man, it
time
was,
to leave.
yeah. She manages to get away on the bike and has a brief interaction with Birkin and his family in the road that like leads to another flashback. They did drag out some of those orphanage flashbacks a little bit, or at
Yeah,
least
it was a little too much, I thought.
they never
But
really even like, they just show her, and like it's kind of anticlimactic because yeah, they do try to take her out of her bed and they're putting her somewhere, which we don't. I mean, maybe it's there. She's supposed to be going into that elevator to go down to the basement when she breaks out and runs away. But I don't know. I kind of wanted a little more action or
yeah,
something there to. But
I kept waiting for a little bit more, like, just not background, but a little bit more sort of enlightenment about what had actually happened to her, what she had seen. I didn't, when it was just that she ran away, and I mean, how is a kid that age going to survive out there? I don't know. But that seemed, and she does manage to give the slip to like six adults in a what seems to be a pretty shut down orphanage
yeah,
really easily. But I thought she was going to see more than she did or something, but that didn't happen.
she just
So
kind of pieces it all together
yeah.
in the present day. And then yeah, I would have liked to have seen a little more like she tries to go back for her brother but can't, or and then she has to break a window or something to get out and climb a wall, because yeah, everything would have been locked there.
Right. But it does seem, I mean, look, it makes sense in the way that they focus on the orphanage, that becomes the sort of way into the mansion. And so I liked that tie in, and I obviously it brings her back to that route, and it gives the two different groups of survivors sort of their own time to kind of do things. And then of course it's a really great set, and it does feel very like video game like. It feels like the game that they have to kind of get through these things to get out of Raccoon City. So that was kind of cool. And I do, obviously I think the Lisa Trevor scenes are incredibly successful, because even when she's being a friend, she is
Oof.
still super creepy. And
The way she
Leon,
takes out that tongue dog
yeah, the liquor, which,
brain monster.
yeah, those things are terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, we're very familiar with those visuals because they basically look, for the most part, like the ones from the last films.
Yep.
But we haven't seen Lisa Trevor kill one with her bare feet
Nope.
before. That
And
is
then her
something else.
hands are in this block, like, uh, it's like she's in these like manacles that it's like a wooden block.
Yeah,
Very, very upsetting. Everything about her character is disturbing to me and just really can't even.
in the Spencer mansion, the team kind of predictably gets chopped up. Like the helicopter pilot gets they do an aliens on him.
Mhm.
And Richard also goes out. He was clearly a red shirt and
Yep.
did not have enough rounds in his shotgun for this job.
Yep.
But then there's kind of later on, there's this amazing scene. Well, they kept doing these little title scenes of like what time it was, right? Because also
Yep.
we understand now that Raccoon City is going to explode at 6 a.m. So they are kind of letting us know how much time is left. They start the shootout with Chris and Richard around 2 a.m. in the mansion,
Mhm.
which Wesker and Jill Valentine cannot hear at all, which I think is insane. How big is this place? But apparently it's just that big. And then there's, Richard dies. Chris is like shooting his way out. And then 2.5 hours later, they go back to him and he's still shooting out zombies and like trying to find his way to the mansion. I thought that was kind of insane. And then like at that 4:30-ish time frame is a really cool set of shots only illuminated by his muzzle
The lighter.
flash. I mean, yes, later the lighter comes in too, but also there's just like a bunch of shots of him shooting at zombies, and
Oh yeah.
all you can see is the flash of the muzzle going
Yeah.
off.
I think that was the thing, the shots in the mansion, the fight scenes in the mansion, again, were done in such a like it was super stressful to watch, but really well done. Because you have these, and the zombie makeup is really scary. The zombies are terrifying. They did a great job. They don't always follow all the rules and they're really hard to kill.
Yeah.
And so this is, and they reveal them or have them not revealed. And there's a stressy thing that happens because you just have no idea where they are, or they'll disappear and they'll be like right up in your face and then gone or whatever it might be. But this was really a great, I thought, I did read some of the reviews of this and some people were giving it bad marks because it was so much in the dark, but I actually thought that this was a really well done, clever way to terrify people. So
Yeah. And that's like you're saying that the set dressing and decoration
oh,
is
so
so
good.
faithful. And I think that's probably one of the adjectives you can use most for this film
Mm-hmm.
is the faithfulness with which it tried to get the original game vision
Mm-hmm.
onto the big screen. And I put a link to an image from the first game into our chat, HA,
Mm-hmm.
and take a look at that. It's the foyer of the mansion, and it's basically, I don't know how if it's exact, but it's like
It's pretty
80% of the
close.
way
Yeah.
there. It's that cream colored tile, the red carpet, the way that the stairs go up, and then from the front door. It's just
No, it's
insane.
great. And even when they pan up, it's really a faithful replica. They did a fantastic job on
That
on
was an
that.
interesting shot. I remember thinking like, okay, interesting. Yeah, they've gone with like soft focus and this angle to show you like the entire front of the house. And I wonder if that's a shot from the game because it felt so precise and so specific.
Yeah.
That super, super interesting. Like I don't think I did not expect to enjoy the Spencer Mansion scenes. I think when they went in there, I was like, oh well, here we go.
Mm.
But then it was actually really cool.
Yeah, and I loved, the care that they took with the little Easter eggs with the Lisa Trevor scene with the key and they have to open up, in the elevator and that kind of thing. I thought that was really if you're into the games, this is really a lot of fun to kind of catch all these things. And I also loved one of the things I really loved was that they're not trying to make this a modern day
Mhm.
set piece. This is definitely um, the 90s, I would say.
It's set in 1998. There's a
And
says
they are faithful to that, both in like how they're dressing, but also the music. And I really and the fact that Wesker has the Palm Pilot,
yep.
which I think is really fantastic. So
It's what, like more movies need to do this too because of the cell phone thing that people can't get around in storytelling these days. They
yep,
have to be like, oh, the cell's signal is down, otherwise our movie doesn't work.
right. But I really liked that. I liked what they did here. And it just it was so it was fun. I don't know, like I did see people sort of giving it a hard, a lot of critical like I don't know, um sort of tongue lashing, but I didn't think that I actually really enjoyed this. I don't know. My overall view was that there's certain things that I'm like, yeah, whatever, but it's supposed to be a fun actiony thing and it's supposed to be based on a video game and have those callbacks to the video game, and it did that. And it was, I thought the script was pretty good too. I mean, it's not perfect, but overall I thought that given this cast, they didn't waste the cast on this.
No. And like, let's talk a little more about Tom Hopper as Albert Wesker. Like, he is he's like an unwilling or a yeah, 1 foot in, 1 foot out trader, even though Jill totally throws him under the bus later.
Yeah, she does. But I mean, look, they've set all of this up in the beginning that the people that are kind of still stuck in Raccoon City are people too poor to leave, or people that are directly tied to the Umbrella Corporation, and maybe some of them are tied because they're too poor to leave. And he's looking for a way out, and he feels I kind of like how they don't make him this huge mustache twirly kind of villain. He's
Yeah.
somebody that is one of them, but um is just tempted because he wants an out. And I think that that speaks to a lot of people. Like, if people are backed into a corner and you're given an option to get out, I mean, he's conflicted about it, and
He's
he
super
saves her.
reluctant. He's super reluctant. And
Yeah,
he doesn't, I mean, I guess, yeah. And given like some moral quandaries later on in the movie, like when he's faced with Birkin, he's like, yeah, okay, Birkin shoots at him, he shoots at Birkin, done. Wife picks up the gun, he shoots the wife. Okay, yeah, that's, yep,
yeah,
pretty much. But then the kid picks up the gun and he's like, I wouldn't have pulled the trigger. And
yeah,
you're just like, yeah, this is good. This is a human
yeah,
person that Jill Valentine could have been in a relationship with, because
yep,
otherwise you're like, what? So I thought, and just Tom Hopper's face, man, he just has
yeah.
this like honesty in his face that I think really he uses a lot in his roles, and it's pretty good in this.
Well,
Uh,
it's effective because even though he's doing bad things, I wouldn't say you give him a pass, but you feel more sympathetic towards him. You understand why he's backed in a corner. And um so I thought that that was an interesting way to play it, as opposed to just paint him in this completely black way,
mhm.
in terms of like being evil, or um and that's a bit different than we normally see. So I liked that. And he does play it so well. And I do think, like, he's just you can even see it on his face, like when the kid picks up the gun, that he's just like, oh man, I don't want to do this. So that's and even in his desperation when he's dealing with Birkin, he's not like he is not really excited to be doing what he's doing, but he feels like it's necessary. So um so I
The
thought that was,
Birkin monster, it felt pretty familiar to me.
yeah.
Like that looked a lot like from the game, didn't it?
Oh yeah.
With the eyeballs
um
and everything.
I also really liked the makeup. They did a great job with his transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Both when he's sort of like the half man, and starting to, like, how he's starting to change, but also later when he's fully transformed and you see his like weird little empty face on there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty awful, but good. Um and he looks very, yeah, it's true to the game. Like, it's, again, it's fun, with a couple of modifications, like the little dead face thing I think might have been new, um but that was really great. And then um it's you have the whole confrontation and final sort of closure for the for our little Redfield siblings, so that's good.
Yeah, I would say the it might even be like just half of the third act did start to feel a little bit like it was just okay. Yeah, can we just wrap this up already?
Yeah, no, I
Just
felt that way too.
just
That's
the
what I mean
Nate.
when the timing kind of fell down, the pacing fell down a little bit
Yeah,
as
just
we got
just
to
a
the end.
little, because there's only so much like, okay, now we're going through this hallway and you're going through that hallway scenes that you're just like, yeah, all right. I mean, I don't need to see all the hallways. But they need to like figure out a way to get these people together, and they have to show what I
Yeah,
feel like they need to show, that it takes them a while because they are. I mean, one of them is under the mansion, which they got there by helicopter, and the others never left Raccoon City,
right,
so
right,
they have to walk the entire way that these other
right.
folks flew. Um, so that does take a minute, but then like these are iconic scenes too, with the train getting out through this under subterranean tunnel. Um, and I don't know if Leon actually had a rocket launcher in the game, but Leon has just gone completely, 180, and is now able to slay bodies and deliver
Yeah,
one-liners. And honestly, his best To me, his best joke was when they were getting in the elevator after they say goodbye to Lisa Trevor. He's like, "You got weird friends." Uh,
Yeah, that was great. That
I,
was one of my favorite lines in the entire film. Well, because like Lisa Trevor is so freaking creepy, and they've seen her do all this stuff um with the killing the liquor the way she does, and then
but I mean, maybe she has super strength. You could take
she
super
does.
strength away from that scene, but she doesn't seem to do anything completely supernatural. She appears and disappears quite easily, and
Um,
she is upside down sometimes, I guess.
yeah, she's supposed to have like a lot of power because of the effect of the virus. So
Yeah,
she's
but
almost
just in the movie itself, I don't know that she comes
yeah.
across as completely supernatural.
She doesn't. But one of the things that I think is the most effective things that she does to enhance her creepiness is her weird little voice, her weird
Mm-hmm.
little vocal stylings are incredibly creepy.
Yeah.
So even when she's saying like Claire's my friend or Claire friend, I'm like, like it's very upsetting. It's very upsetting.
Yeah, and
Throughout
her fingernails, her hands in
that
general.
too, that too, but also the little eye looking out through the mask of a face.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's
And
just
the hair
really,
coming out the eye hole.
yes, it's
Yes,
very
there are
very.
many things that are unsettling. I'm just like, I don't remember her doing anything that was like teleportation or
Oh
shooting
yeah,
lasers.
she doesn't do any of that. So they
Yeah,
kind of kept that sort of, down to earth.
cool. I'm glad that they kept her down to earth because if it was much more, I would have lost it entirely.
Yeah.
Lisa Trevor was extremely successful
Yes.
in the
Yes, she
job
was.
that they needed her to do for me.
Yep.
But I think that's kind of it. They do set it up for more films because by the end, Albert Wesker is with Ada Wong, and he's still that sympathetic character. He's been brought back to life, and she gives him his signature sunglasses and
Yep.
says, "There, like that's one side effect. There will be others." And he's like, "What do you want from me?" And she doesn't answer, and then like fade to black. And
Yeah. And
you're
then
kind
the
of
other
ready.
the other thing I thought, you know, and they make, this is sort of like an allusion to it when they do have Leon and Claire sort of watching the video of some of the experiments and all of that.
Oh, those twins
Um,
are going to show up at some point.
Yeah, of course. I didn't think they were going to show up here. I figured it would be for a sequel, but again, this is a callback um to other things. So, they're laying the ground for a sequel definitely. And I hope Ada Wong will have a pretty outsized role in that. So that was kind of cool. But, it's overall I had a lot of fun with this and I think they did too. It seemed like the cast was having fun anyway.
Yeah. Weirdly, the critics don't love this film. They got 30% from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes,
Mhm.
66% from audience. It made back what it needed to in the box office by some miracle because it came out in a year when not a lot of people were going to the movies. It cost 25 million to make. It made 31, and well, HA and I just put a little more money into that bucket too because the only way to watch this right now is to
Buy
buy
it.
it on Amazon Prime or YouTube or something. And so I'm now the proud owner of this film. But honestly, I'm not. I'm not going to hate it for it. It was. It was worth it. It was worth the price of admission for me. I don't know if you feel the same way.
I wasn't psyched to spend this much on it, but I thought it was successful. And I don't know, maybe it's because you and I did like the game and the callbacks to the game and appreciated what they were doing here. But even if that, I was trying to think if this stuff, um, if you were to separate it out, and even if you didn't know about all the sort of Easter eggs with the game, I still think it would be successful. I mean, it's not like it is a little bit gamey feeling, like, and that's I think by design, obviously, but I think you can watch this and not know anything about the Resident Evil franchise and enjoy this. And I think that they did a good job. So I'm not quite sure why the reviews are so negative. But I'll admit maybe I'm biased because this calls back to the late 90s, which is like our heyday in terms of like graduate, how we were in college and whatever, and this was like a big part of the zeitgeist, or at least it was in my dorm
Mm-hmm.
room.
Yeah.
But this, but I still feel like if you take all that stuff out, I thought it was successful. I thought it was fun. And honestly, I thought it was a little less choppy than the original film, the original effort at this. So I don't know. I think I'm fine with the price of admission, given that we watched it so quickly after its release, and it's all, that's what they got to do to make their money back, which I think is fine. But I would, if you're a horror film fan, I think this was fun.
Hell, I
Um,
mean, it's basically just the first 45 minutes of this movie is enough for, if you're a horror fan,
yeah.
hang out in there for a while. It does lose a little bit of that toward the end, but by that point you're kind of on rails, and if you know the story, you know where you're going. So
Right. So, so anyway, I think that's about all I have to say about this. But, um, what are we going to talk about next week? I'm kind of excited because I think I know what it's going to be.
well, next week we're gonna be getting together. It's the weekend of the 28th, and anybody who's been listening to our podcast or paying attention to what's coming out on Netflix knows that's when All of Us Are Dead drops. Now,
Mm.
HA and I had a pleasant discovery, which is that, hey, this is not a movie. This is actually a series. I had no
Yay.
idea from the trailer, or I guess, maybe I'm not reading good. But yeah,
Mm.
there's going to be multiple episodes of this. And so we're going to start digging into it next week.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to dive in. So this will be fun. So if you have thoughts about Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, please drop us a line, send us an email, reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com, reanimatedpcast on the Twitters, or you can just leave a note on our page, reanimatedpodcast.com.
Next time. So thanks for listening.
Yep. Thank you. Ciao.
All right. Bye bye.